I want to thank you guys very much for coming, and I'll be telling you a little bit more about what the evening's about. But first, I've invited Liam to recite a poem that he wrote to help set the context for the evening.
Somehow, somewhere, some when, some why, the world will change for you and I. The mean shall leave in a chartered boat, across the deeps of space they'll float, and all that they shall leave behind, the good, the true, the clean, the kind. The poor shall rise up from their sheds and take their place in silken beds. The sick shall be by health set free, and hospitals shall art stores be. Somehow, somewhere, some when, some why, the smog shall leave our tortured skies. The stream shall run with water clean, the slum shall sprout with forests green. The bison shall with thunder roam in massive herds their former home. Dioxins, lead, and DDT shall from our world forever flee, and greenhouse gases shall disperse. The mother's balance reign on earth. Somehow, somewhere, some when, some why, the children shall no longer cry. Their bellies full and raised in love, without the scream, the hit, the snub. And valued shall their elders be, those hoary heads give wisdom free. The white, the brown, the black, the red, shall leave their hatreds lying dead beside them in the road of life, and charge ahead, full free of strife. Somehow, somewhere, some when, some why, I may desert these dreams and lies. I may become a cynic true and turn from skies of deepest blue to grudgingly accept the fate that comes to those who whine and hate. Till then I'll hold that some sweet day the world will find a better way, and pray that when my hope is gone, some other fool will carry on.
This has been a very difficult meeting to pull together. I think it's because we're all facing a very difficult and challenging time. You may have heard the expression herding cats. We all have a very clear vision of what we want to accomplish and how we want to move forward. And the individuals must be honored in that process. And at the same time, we have a collective vision that we would all like to pull together in one direction. So how do we balance those two forces, if forces is the right word? That is what this evening is about. We're trying to find a way to incorporate both of those things. And so this evening we're going to give you an opportunity to speak about those things that you would like to do, as well as invite you to join us in the plan that we as a community have created that we call the strategic plan. So last March, after about a year and a half of recognizing that we need some more traction, some more focus, WELL came together and did a weekend called the Future of the WELL, in which what came out of that was the membership voting body. Was anyone not at David Corton's event last week? A few people, but, well, amazing thing that David said, a couple of things that I really noticed. He said that our culture has fragmented our local community, and that what we need to do is put investment of time and energy back into rebuilding our local community with one-on-one with each other. And I'm going to be speaking more personally about that for myself. And the way that he recommended doing that is going into creating local organized cells. But what is imperative as we do that is be clear about what is our service to the whole. And if we look outward to that of what we all want to give to the collective, then there is plenty for us to have. So we're going to try to learn to figure out how to balance both of those tonight. So the overview of this evening that we're going to do, we're first going to begin with Brian and Jason, Brian Weller and Jason Bradford are going to be giving a presentation that they will be giving at every plenary meeting, which is going to be happening every month, and that will provide a context of why we're all here tonight, why this is important. Next, we're going to hear from the members of the coordinating committee who are going to talk about the teams that they are heading up. So each member of the coordinating committee has selected a project team, a support team, which is overall support for the community, and they are going to be the contact person for the project team, which we'll be talking more about those in a moment, that are a specific project. It's not an overall thing that's supporting the community. Then we're going to break out to our teams and have a good amount of time to discuss that. And if you don't know which team you want to go to, there'll be a space for you at that as well. All right, thank you. And now for Brian and Jason.
Thank you, Mark. So the idea behind this is that we want to show a presentation that we put together, and this is to represent well to the rest of the community and to enroll people in this process. So what we'd like to say is that after we give this, if you have any comments, concerns, questions, write them down and give it to us. We don't have time right now to get into any long dialogues, but we want to hear what you think about this, and we will take all that into consideration as necessary, okay? Because this is representing your organization, all right?
Yeah, and something that Mark said just now, every month we want to show this or a version of this. That is primarily for bringing new people in. Behind us you can see these boards, and we've used those, they've served us very well. And one of the projects that we're going to put together shortly is to take these boards with a few other slides and ideas and reproduce them. And then reproduce them not only as a set of posters, as it were, but also as a desktop. So we'll have a little training for anyone who's interested. So if you want to, get a little desktop, fold out, each slide like that for your family or for friends in your neighborhood like that, then it's another great way to enroll the community, because we have a target to really get a lot of people in the community enrolled in the next couple of years. And then we become a real force, for change and so on.
Okay, so this is sort of the motto we have put together for WELL: strengthening our economy, supporting our community, stewarding our environment.
So this is our vision that we created on the 4th and 5th of March, and we used the redwood tree as a great metaphor for really who we are: strong, reliable, and secure for our community. So the whole idea is, again, to this enduring local economy, and the redwoods are a great vision, it's a great metaphor for who we are in this part of the world.
So the membership of WELL is focused around 95490. It's about a 20-mile radius from downtown Willits. It incorporates 322 square miles, population of approaching 14,000 now. So this is the locale we are focusing our attention on.
And a little montage of some of the sort of highlights of our wonderful town. And right here we can see right up there we can see the Burrito X that we have, in fact, the entrepreneur that started it, Tom. Can we give Tom a round of applause? Yes. A great example of what local food and local service really means, and we hope to extend that, of course. And we have Roots Automotive Power. Of course, we're known for that wonderful little horse, Seabiscuit. Again, a great metaphor if you think about it. Scrawny little horse took on the corporate horse, remember, from the East Coast, and won the day. And if that's not a great metaphor for what we're trying to do here, up and down this strip of Northern California, I don't know what is.
So part of what brought WELL together, people WELL together, is that we are living in turbulent times. Those of us that are members of WELL that have started this organization are worried about rising fuel and energy costs, geopolitical instability, unstable weather patterns, and the fact that essential goods that we rely on every day are trucked in. All of this makes us feel vulnerable. So that is part of the issue, that we are living in turbulent times right now. And we're going to be talking about some of what those issues are in more detail, and also what the vision is for how we feel we can solve this here in our area.
So we talked a lot about peak oil over this last couple of years. If you remember, one of the first, I think the first big talk we had was from Richard Heinberg. How many of you were here for that That was a big one. Remember, there was like about 200, 250 of us, I think. And one of the things that's important is the context for economic localization is talking about our vulnerabilities, which we're going to get to shortly. And this is pretty self-explanatory. It's not that oil is running out, although of course it is, but it's the end of cheap oil and easy to get oil. When we get to this crest here, the pressure that has driven the oil out of the ground, when we get to that peak moment, that pressure starts to fall away. And then we have to put energy in to get the energy out. So, in the early days of Agashia, we're talking maybe 30, 40, 50 barrels output for one input. Remember, a barrel of oil is about 42 US gallons. That ratio decreases rapidly when you get to peak, and it goes beyond that down to 5 to 4 to 3 to 2. So as demand goes up, supply goes down, and that's pretty much where we are. We're on that crest right now, whether it's this year or the next 4 or 5 years, that we're about at peak.
So what are the implications for this? This is something that actually the US government is studying very carefully and are very concerned about. This is a report commissioned by the Department of Energy, published February 2005. It's referred to commonly as the Hirsch Report, and it's on a US government Department of Energy website. And this is the opening of the executive summary. The peaking of world oil production presents the US and the world with an unprecedented risk management problem. As peaking is approached, liquid fuel prices and price volatility will increase dramatically, and without timely mitigation, the economic, social, and political costs will be unprecedented. Viable mitigation options exist on both the supply and demand sides, but to have substantial impact, they must be initiated more than a decade in advance of peaking.
So we'll run through these quite quickly. We're totally familiar with some of the effects of the dramatic changes, as David Corton referred to it as the perfect economic storm. The peaking of oil, climate change, and you can see these are some of the images from Katrina, and we're still dealing with that aftermath. And our readiness to deal with that, 200,000-300,000 people, and what happened to them is nothing in a sense, although it's very important, but compared to what could come if we have dramatic increases in climate change and sea level rise.
So for example, Dr. James Hansen is the director of NASA's Goddard Institute for Space Studies, and just this late summer in September in Sacramento, California, he basically said, "I think we have a very brief window of opportunity to deal with climate change, no longer than a decade at the most. We cannot burn off all the fossil fuels that are readily available without causing dramatic climate change," Hansen said. "This is not something that is a theory. We understand the carbon cycle well enough to say that. So we have a decade at most to deal with the fact that we have to get off of fossil fuels and transition our economy away from a reliance on them."
So it's decision time. The information that is now building and building and building requires us to make decisions. That decision, as you know from the decide, means to cut off from. When you cut off from alternatives, we have a couple of clear alternatives here. We can either take this approach, or we can take this approach. In other words, we can take the information and the data we have, and on a community-wide level, we can learn about it, we can accept some of these trends and some of these directions, we can plan and then take action. And that really is what WELL is here to do. In other words, Willits together, moving into the future that's going to be sustainable.
Now, we have right now a conception of our economy, the human economy, that is not put into proper context. When you learn about these issues like peak oil and climate change, you start realizing that the source of our material abundance right now is coming from the natural systems of the earth, from the mines, from the forests, from the aquifers, from the fields, and that when we talk about peak oil or deforestation, we're depleting minerals, we're talking about the problem of the inputs into our human economy, our livelihood. And at the other end of it, when we use all these fossil fuels or build up pollutants in our output of our economy, they damage the environment that we rely on. And this produces feedbacks that aren't that pleasant. Like the Katrina hurricane examples are that. So in essence, what's happened is that the human economy is growing, and it's displacing those natural systems that we actually rely on for our livelihood. And this is what we have to understand, this process, and sort out a way so that this human economy here does not infringe upon the ecosystems it depends upon, okay? And is based upon a renewable energy cycle.
If we then turn our attention again back here to Willits, one of the early inventories that was done in the first 6-9 months of well, we showed up here in the food inventory that we are indeed quite vulnerable. And some of you remember we had the emergency preparedness session here with a lot of local leaders of the community, and we've done our homework, of course, with well, and these are some of the days supply and stock due to just-in-time deliveries, called JIT. Large companies tend to truck in, so there's only a certain amount of supply. In the case of Mariposa, of course, 7 days, Ray's like 3 days, and Safeway 1 to 2 days. So this is just an example of some of the work that came out of well, led us to these local and important conclusions.
So basically, we are vulnerable to shortages of our basic requirements because we do not have a sustainable local economy. For example, we may run out of Pepsi Cola. Yes, if peak oil hits hard, can this truck make it? That's vulnerability.
And of course, where this all comes from, see that the markets depend upon the trucks depend upon oil. And of course, if you look at that too, highly vulnerable. So as the price goes up, and also the instability and the political ups and downs across the world make it very, very important, again, that we localize our economy and we localize our energy.
So it's not just the food. It's not just, it's every widget and gizmo and thingamajig in your life just about is coming from outside. The information we get even. It's almost all shipped into Willits from somewhere else. This is the globalized economy that we've all bought into. And these vulnerabilities and liabilities make us insecure. And so to act responsibly is to take this information into account and to think about, well, what really needs to happen to deal with this. And that's why we provide as a solution a local economy, a local economic system in which we make sure that we harness our own ingenuity, our own community spirit, and our own productive capacity to grow the food we need, produce the goods and services we need, and do it in a way that it runs on renewable energy, the sunshine economy, and we understand the material loop, the cycling of things within that economy so that there really isn't waste in this sort of environment.
So it's the good old re's, reuse, reduce, rethink, recycle, and remind ourselves.
Repair.
Thank you. So, the WELL mission. And this is important because there is a little acronym embedded here. The mission of WELL to foster the creation of a local sustainable economy in the Willits area by partnering with other organizations to watch for opportunities and vulnerabilities, incubate, coordinate projects, facilitate dialogue action, and educate within our community. And there's a very important idea here, and that is we're working and partnering with other organizations, right? So it's not a small group in this room that's doing it. There's a Chamber of Commerce doing great stuff in the Going Local campaign. Reddy's been doing wonderful work. The WEC has been doing wonderful work. There are many, many organizations, and most of, I say, the groups in this community are moving somewhere in the direction, and we've got to encourage them to do this. So we're partnering. And the Watch, Incubate, Facilitate, Educate stands for what we call the Midwife acronym, WIFE. We're midwifing the future, and that's really what the spirit, I believe, of the WELL mission is.
So there are many benefits of doing this, okay? We've talked a lot about why we really better do it, all right? But there are benefits. We want to highlight these benefits. Safe organic meat, milk, vegetables, fruits, cheeses, grains, etc. Clean, efficient transportation and renewable energy options. Reviving traditional local trades. Stronger personal connections to one another and our neighboring communities. Improved financial stability and independence with local money systems. And retention of local youth through more diverse job opportunities. Now, the data is in, it's clear. A community that does this generates greater local employment, greater tax base. It's good for the business people, it's good for the bankers, it's good for the government, and it's good for the service organizations and clubs in the community, it's good for the schools, it's a win-win-win situation all around.
So that's the message we want to get out through the membership drive and the enrollment process. The more people we get on board, the less we're perceived as a small group of local activists when it becomes a community-wide initiative. So we've had some landmarks in Well, and I won't go through every one, but from our very earliest inception in October 2004, just over 2 years ago, these are just a few of the highlights. In fact, I believe there's been about 18 major speakers here, something like that, and some of them are mentioned here. But just look here, the city signing up towards the joint statement, along with many other local groups, sponsoring the Going Local workshop with Michael Schumann, that some of you were at that, Chamber of Commerce, the WEC, Willits Environmental Center, READY, and it's wonderful that the READY Home Energy Link program or the HELP program has got underway with the support of the city. That is a very, very strong initiative. And for those of you that don't know about it, talk to the HELP people. And of course, Little Lake Grange. We've had a few elder talk meetings at Little Lake Grange and partnering with them. It's been extremely important. Richard Jorgensen has been a real sort of driving force behind that with the support of many of us here. And it's a real credit that we've, in a sense, given extra power behind what is really the Grange philosophy. Local food for local people. And that makes us secure.
So, how does Well operate? Well, it's a membership-based organization. Decisions are made through a membership process. If you're a member, you can vote, you can give your feedback to the governing body. So we've worked out how to become a member, how to make decisions, etc. So this is one of our one of the meetings where we decided how we were going to decide. We set the rules together in this big group.
And the big group, by the way, is now around about 230 members enrolled, and we haven't even started really the major outreach yet, so we're underway. So the organizational structure, which took a lot of doing, we described it as a will, and this will be a good segue into what we're going to do in a few minutes. We basically have the subscribing membership, and those are people who basically believe in the values of Well, the vision of Well, and really want to stand for that, but aren't necessarily they don't have the time or maybe the ability or the desire, let's say, a better way of putting it, to come and join a working group. Then within that, we have the working membership, and then we see these 16 teams, and as Mark was saying earlier, there are important support teams, which in a sense are behind the projects, the project teams, like funding and events, media liaison, membership, and so on, research. And then we have, as you can see, the water, food, transportation, energy, shelter. These are the traditional project teams, and those are the teams in the sense that are getting the change occurring. And one thing to remember about this, when you're seeding the future, just like any good gardener will tell us, it starts with breaking ground, preparing the soil or just making sure that it's in good shape, and then securing the border, starting to put the seeds in. Nothing much happens for a while. Nothing much happens for a while. The shoots don't grow out of the ground immediately. So many people have often said, oh, well, what is Well doing? Well, what it's been doing is seeding the future. That's what we've been doing together. And some of these seeds have already taken root, they're shooting up and giving us wonderful bounty. That's the process we're engaged in. It takes time, particularly when you're enrolling the whole community, and that's our task. And the structure is for that. In the center there, the coordination committee. And it's important to mention that coordination is about exactly that. We simply want to be a focal point. We're not, quote, running the show. This is for the community-wide initiative. So we're just a focal group to help coordinate.
And legally, we're a program of the Renewable Energy Development Institute, which is a 501c3 nonprofit. So yeah, other thing we do is we hold these community events. So here's some examples of those. And what's great about these is these community events bring in a lot of people to as part of the education sort of process, and they can become enrolled and sign up, etc. So we've had some wonderful events with great people.
And many, many ongoing projects, many to mention here. The Brookside Farm is underway. We've got a commitment to solarize the city buildings and so on. And also, of course, the Gleaners have been a sterling example, wonderful example of people serving the community, giving their time, and also producing wonderful food. I think it's something like, how many tons is it?
3 tons
3 tons of food. Isn't that amazing?
this year.
This year, yeah. And it's just the start. So well done, the cleaners.
So Will has an office in downtown Willits with 1 part-time staff person. We have a website and produce regular newsletter distributed by email. It also goes into the Willits News. Here's the contact email, well@readynet.org, and there's a phone number. So this is a place where if you want to walk in, if you want to call, email somebody, pick up brochures, etc., there is a structural way to do that with an office and an employee. And this really helps move things through between meetings.
Just one thing to add to that. The Susie group that is not here tonight has done a huge amount of work putting all of the Well's website in its original form into a network now. And as part of the Post-Carbon Institute link, there's now about 120 odd communities around the world that are doing this whole direction towards economic localization, and that back end is going to be extremely useful. So the Well site, if you go onto the Well site, we really encourage you to do so. You'll see all of the local Well events. It looks like Well, it is Well, but we have the ability now to network with all these communities around the world and to share best practice and really put some fuel behind making this a worldwide phenomenon. That's our role and our real task here.
Okay, to join Well is very simple. We have a simple membership form, a very low $10 yearly fee. This covers basic things like keeping the lights on in the office, utilities, rent, etc. Doesn't cover all of that, but that's sort of part of what we need to do actually, is have a functioning office structure to keep this thing going. Why should we do this? By joining Well, you're helping create a positive future. You're making connections in the community. You're bringing your passions and skills in life to this work. We're having fun together, and you get to be part of a team.
And this is it. This is the team. And it's a bigger team than is here tonight. So this is the last slide, and we'll be tuning this up. If you've got any input for us, let us know. And this is how we want to enroll the whole community. One piece of it anyway, by doing these kinds of talks. So thank you so much. Thank you, Jason.
Thanks, Brian.